What's up, everyone? Well, it's here. Sonic Frontiers, the first all-new main series Sonic game in 5 years. A lot can happen in 5 years. Within this 5-year gap, I finally quit my horrible day job at a grocery store, started my journey into voice acting, and made this channel. The reason why I started this channel was that I want to talk about things that critics kind of look down on, at least for a while. Story and characters. Back in the late 2000s, the 2010s, we're told not to give a crap about these things. Only gameplay matters. Nobody cares about these stupid characters. Never say nobody. So for the past 3 years, my main shtick was talking about characters and the plot of a game or a movie, and so on. These characters, these stories, they can resonate with the player or the viewer. They do matter. They can spark something in you. They can inspire you. Riku from Kingdom Hearts is my favorite, most inspirational character, and you bet I made a video about him. Most of the videos I made over the years were Sonic related, and I can't help myself. There is a lot to talk about. This franchise is so rich with lore, characters, and what really stinks is that the game's last decade didn't really do much with them, doing the bare minimum and defending that by saying, look, it's just a game, you should not care. It's just that there's this untapped potential and you gotta do something with it. In my final, full-blown characters in depth video, I went over why this decade was the way it was. The reaction of the backlash of Sonic 06, ditching anything ambitious and keeping it simple and lighthearted. Which I understand why, and Sonic Colors and Generations are close favorites to a lot of fans. I don't want to take that away from anyone. After a few years of filler, we got Sonic Forces. A half-hearted, quarter-hearted attempt at making a new, actual story. But there was no commitment. There was so much backpedaling on this. So we're left with a pitifully average story. And after 5 years, it does not hold up. You have failed the test of time, Forces. So Sonic Team will have to step it up. It's not 2010, you can't repeat colors. As a matter of fact, they did repeat colors last year and ouch! Now collectively, fans and critics are ready for a new game, a new experience, a new era. And that brings us to Sonic Frontiers. Although the early promotion was pretty weak, later trailers and demos showed people what this game is. And people are loving it. Good reviews, fun to play, and it's selling. There's something else really refreshing here, an effort to the story. On top of that, Ian Flynn of the Sonic IDW comics wrote the dialogue for this game, meaning Ken Pontac and Warren Graff are out. Those two were writers for a lot of Sonic games last decade. By the way, I don't want to see any hate against these two. No matter how much you love a franchise, nothing is ever worth hate mail or harassment.
For the love of God, do not attack the creators! Do not send death threats! It's a bad story, and we should criticize a bad story, but don't become a goddamn supervillain yourself! Tom King got death threats over this, and that is so much worse than a bad story!
Now then, for the first game of this brand new era, how is the story of Sonic Frontiers? How were the characters written? Is this truly the best Sonic story since Sonic and the Black Knight? By the way, I gotta be clear on something first. This video is mainly about the story. If you want to know what I think about how the game plays, I can't say anything on that since I haven't played it. Now let's dive in and see the story of Sonic Frontiers. Aboard the Tornado, Sonic, Tails, and Amy are on their way to the Starfall Islands, investigating the sudden vanishing of the Chaos Emeralds. On the way there, a wormhole opens up and sucks them in, sending Sonic to the obligatory Green Hill opening. Please be the last one. After that stage, Sonic wakes up on the island, and an enigmatic, digital voice tells Sonic that he escaped from cyberspace, and he is the key. He's directed to find the Chaos Emeralds and destroy the Titans. Sonic, always the impatient one, sees this as a way to save his friends, the only thing on his mind. And Kronos Island opens up to Sonic. Here's the structure of Frontiers' story. For the first 3 islands, Sonic will partially save his friends from their digital prisons. And while they still need saving to be complete, they're not totally helpless. Amy, Knuckles, Tails, they can still talk. They can still play an active role. In each island, we have these chibi stone inhabitants called the Coco. And Amy, Knuckles, and Tails are so adamant in helping them. As you help the Cocos, you learn more about the island's history, and the mystery unravels further and further. And throughout the journey, Sonic will be pestered by a gothic girl known as Sage, assuring him time and time again that he will fail if he keeps going. At the end of each island, Sonic gets all 7 Chaos Emeralds, goes super, and fights the respective Titan. That's right, we're not saving it for the end. And when he goes to a new island, he loses the emeralds and has to gather them all over again. The formula of Frontiers? It's solid. We've never had a story like this before, using the open world genre. Yeah, open zone, I hear ya. Using this genre to immerse the player into the story. You could only do this story with a world map this size. Yeah, theoretically, maybe you could with a stage-to-stage format, but the way Frontiers does it, this is how you should do it. If you're going into Frontiers expecting a super cool action story, I'd say slow the hell down. Frontiers is quiet, patient, and while there are dark moments, I wouldn't flat out call it a dark story. It's a mature one. This archipelago, it's its own character. I was worried that the Starfall Islands would be just land, but that's not the case here. There is a mythos. A lot of care was put into this region. And speaking of care, Ian Flynn knows Sonic history. A lot of references to previous games are here. And I mean, a lot. What keeps them from sounding like
Remember Slimy? I love Slimy.
Is that the way the characters talk about them, they sound like lived experiences. They've been through all this, and so have we, the players. Sonic Frontiers is a continuation, not just another segment. And according to the dialogue, everything is canon. Like, everything?
Do not overthink this!
Okay, everything's canon. It's cool. But there are some things I gotta say. Making every previous game canon lands in have your cake and eat it too territory. There's a cutscene where Knuckles says, "Man, I gotta be more outgoing. I need to travel." But he's been doing that a lot of times post SA2. And I should point out that I am one of those guys who wanted the game's last decade to be removed from the timeline. So everything being canon, shouldn't that make me furious? Well, after watching these cutscenes, it got me thinking. The events of Lost World and Forces do amount to character growth for Tails in this game. Also, there are kids who were introduced to Sonic through these games, and they don't want to feel left out. So every game being canon, it's not what I personally prefer, but it's a compromise I can live with. I think it's time we talk about the players in this story, and see if Frontiers does them right.
Key, huh? Sure beats being called a rodent. Are you saying I can rescue my friends?
I'm not gonna beat around the bush. This might be the best Sonic we've had since Black Knight. His upbeat, smartass personality is there, but he always knows what's at stake. Frontier strikes the right balance with Sonic, his cockiness, and his heroic nature, never alienating fans both old and new. Following a lot of other games, Sonic has a flat character arc. Sonic himself stays the same, but people around him change. We'll get back to this later. Even when things seem bleak, Sonic keeps going with that snarky grin on his face, which is nothing new. In games with heavier storytelling, Sonic is always consistent. There's a plot point where Sonic gets more and more corrupted as he saves his friends. The corruption spreads throughout his body, hindering his movements. And Sage asks him, "Why? Why do you keep going?" Sonic doesn't verbally answer. He just keeps going, with that signature grin. His never say die attitude guides him through his darkest moments. That's Sonic the Hedgehog right there. I really appreciate when he gives his friends time to talk about themselves. He doesn't see them as his lackeys. They are his friends. He is interested in their lives. He wants to talk to them. He cares about them. And he is a positive, uplifting influence to them. I needed to see something like this. If I had to compare Sonic in this game to another one, I think it would be Unleashed. Unleashed also has a fairly patient, quiet story where a lot of it is talking. Sure, exposition talking, but it also has real talking. That cutscene where Sonic and Chip talk on the pier at Atabat, we see how determined and selfless Sonic truly is. Chip is willing to handle the rest all on his own, but Sonic stops him, going, "Nah. You're my buddy, and we're sticking to the end. I got your back, bro." Frontiers reminds me a lot about that. Sonic being a friend. So I'm happy to say, Frontiers understands Sonic as a character. Well, that's one down.
But I know what I saw. A love that transcended time. I believe in that power.
Over the years, we've seen Amy in a few extremes. The obsessive, scary as hell fangirl who's always chasing after Sonic. Starting with Boom and carrying on to Forces, we've overcorrected this. The positives are she's not as fanatical as in Heroes or Free Riders, but the negatives are that they forgot the core part of Amy. She is a Pollyanna, an innocent, naive girl who's always been fascinated about everything magical, both what we can and can't see, especially love. That's not to say Sonic should be the only thing on her mind. There's other stuff going on in Amy's life. Looking after a lost bird, being a big sister to Cream, and helping others see the light. Frontiers understands that. Amy still is a Pollyanna living in her own bubble, but she's also aware of the real world and doesn't try to block it out. We have this moment where she rants at Sage for calling Sonic a danger to the world. She's sticking up for Sonic, not because she sees him as her boyfriend, because she sees him for who he is. She's a reliable source of information for the player and highly respected by Sonic. We've come a long way after.
I was afraid I'd never be able to flirt with you again.
The central theme of the Cocos and Kronos Island is love. Yeah, big shock. Both platonic and romantic, helping reunite a mother with her children and bringing two lovers together. Amy knows full well of the awesome power of love, and of course you would want other people to feel that. This is a more mature version of Amy, but without sacrificing her identity. Our girl's there.
It reminds me I'm the last echidna, that I'm alone. I'll admit, I do envy your lifestyle. Freedom to go where you want, when you want.
Oh, 2022 has been a good year for Knuckles. Yeah, get that shit out of here. This is how you do it. He's not a dumbass, and he's not comic relief. Holy crap, we've gone full circle. He's back to an honor-bound warrior, and his friendship with Sonic is back to being a pseudo-rivalry. Man, I gotta work with you? Ugh, that's such a pain. Yeah, well, not as painful as it is for me, Knucklehead. These two. And I am not forgetting that part where Knuckles shields Sonic from Sage's blast. Despite the bickering, the two are friends. And it's one of the most active bits Knuckles has, despite being a cyber ghost. And in case you're wondering, I did watch the Frontiers prologue, and I love the hell out of it. This is the Knuckles I've been wanting for years. That badass, stoic guardian who's always ready to kick some ass. But he also has his sentimental side. There's a part where he was feeling incredibly nostalgic about old ruins that resemble the ones on Angel Island, especially the area where he met Sonic and Tails for the first time. I can't lose this! And speaking of sentimental, we have that moment. Knuckles sitting with Sonic and talking about his feelings. He opens up about feeling alone, and Sonic assures him he isn't alone. Knuckles goes on about how jealous he is of Sonic for living life to the fullest. And Sonic's response? Do that! Go out, travel, live. I haven't seen these two as buddies in a long time. And I mean buddies, not Knuckles being a cog in Sonic's image. The theme of Ares Island is honor and duty. The Cocos prepare their defenses for a coming attack, and Knuckles leads the charge, without Operation Big Wave. Let's never do that again. If you've been on this channel long enough, then you know Knuckles is my favorite Sonic character. And I'm satisfied with how he's written here. Stoic, cool, brave, snarky, friendly, and emotional. Knuckles is back.
Sonic, am I a burden to you? You're always rescuing me when all I do is follow you around.
In an interesting subversion, Tails is the last of your friends that you come across. We're so used to him being the first. I've mentioned before that Tails is the most discredited character last decade. He's just the sidekick, the friend, the number two who stands on the side and never really does anything that matters. What does Frontiers have to say about that? Well, the frustration's mutual. We see Tails as insecure and ashamed of himself over the past few games. He's in all of them, and he doesn't do jack. In his mind, he's kicking himself going, what the hell have I been doing this whole time? The internet has been so accustomed to seeing Tails as the younger brother to Sonic. And here you have the character himself saying, no, stop, please stop doing that! Tails is venting this out loud, sick of being Sonic's lackey, but without hating Sonic for it. This is a much more believable, real reaction. And Sonic is supporting Tails, reminding him that he is a hero, saving Station Square and busting him out of Prison Island. Tails is so cluttered with self-doubt, and Sonic is trying to help him break out of it. If I had to guess the theme of Chaos Island, it would be loyalty and independence. You help a Coco who's an apprentice to the top pilot, or a sidekick, if you will. It seems almost entirely dependent of its hero. Even when the canon's complete, it's still upset because its hero didn't show up. Sound familiar? But here, Tails inspires the Coco not to give up. Not Sonic, Tails. Tails is the hero here. Later on, that Coco finds a missing part all on its own while Sonic and Sage are having their back and forth. And that little Coco finishes the defense system. I wonder if it realized its self-worth. By the end of the Chaos Island chapter, Tails tells Sonic that he wants to go off on his own for a while. Have his own adventures. Okay, I really hope they're not just saying that. A couple things come to mind. One, a brand new 3D game where we actually play as Tails, or an animated short leading up to another solo Sonic game. I'm doubting Tails, Knuckles, or Amy will be playable anytime soon. No. Well, the future's looking bright for Tails.
I was looking for fishing spots and wound up here. So now I'm fishing.
Big's inclusion is really funny. He's made cameos in Adventure 2 and Secret Rings, with no explanation how he got there. And Frontiers is the first time where someone directly approaches him and asks, how? How did you get here? Big doesn't know how to answer. He's just there, so, might as well enjoy my time fishing. And speaking of fishing, it's back as an optional minigame. And there's no irony, no scorn, none of that. It's treated as a relaxing side game. Yeah, there isn't a lot going on with Big here. He's not a cyber ghost, he doesn't need Sonic's help, he's just there. Which is fitting for Big. There's no character development needed since Big never needed that. Even in Sonic Adventure, he's just some dude living his life. Out of all the characters, Big is the most at peace. And come to think of it, we never see him leave Starfall Islands. Given how he can make cameos anywhere, we're sure he'll get out. So, that's really it for Big.
I understand. Go. Fulfill your function. Be careful, dear daughter.
How's this for another subversion? Eggman isn't a villain in this game. You don't fight him at all. In the B-plot, Eggman stumbles across ancient technology and accidentally gets himself trapped within cyberspace. For the majority of the game, his objective didn't have anything to do with Sonic at first, but he does want updates. Besides that, he's got his own things to do. And there's no Orbot or Cubot there. I wouldn't say we're completely done with them since they were in the prequel comic, but they're nowhere to be seen in the game, outside of being mentioned once or twice. If we are done with them in the games, I'd say this cutscene of Forces was the right send-off for them.
It appears they have taken our legs right out from under us. Quite impressive, really.
I don't have legs! Neither do you, dude!
Don't remind me, dude.
We can make it, and we all stick together. We won't give up, not ever, and everything's gonna be alright. We all bring out.
Replacing these two is Sage, Eggman's most special creation, an android who's the most human-looking of his robots. Her #1 directive is protecting Eggman in cyberspace from the hazards inside, also finding him a way out of there, which she says can't be done. You'd think the bad news would send Eggman into a frenzy. Well, not quite. Turns out Eggman really enjoys Sage's company, telling him jokes, mostly involving Sonic, and Eggman says a few words you would never catch him saying to anyone. Keep up the good work. I'm proud of you. In the Egg memos, he first called her It, an artificial intelligence, It, a tool. And later on, without noticing at first, he calls her She. It is what you think it is. Eggman and Sage have a father-daughter relationship. Nobody tell Omelette. Frontier shows us more of Eggman's tender side. Mike Pollock's performance in this game is like a blend of 06 and Unleashed. We have the calmer, more calculating Eggman, and the maniacal genius who loves to laugh. But it is mostly tender Eggman here. Instead of a bad guy, Eggman's role in this game is an observer, studying this region, the civilization that once lived here. In the Egg memos, he gives his thoughts on a lot of things. Past adventures, other ancient cultures. And this one shocked me. He talks about Maria. That Maria. Before this, the only time he mentioned her was in Adventure 2, as a password. He says that he never knew Maria that well, despite them being cousins. And it turns out, he was jealous of her. After she was killed on the Ark, everyone in the family talked about her, going over how amazing of a person she was. Which is true, and little Ivo Robotnik didn't get that much attention, even though he was right there. He felt overlooked. That might have been another contributing factor to the way he is now. In Adventure 2, he stated that his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, was his idol. He wanted to be seen as the ultimate genius, like he was. And Maria may have inadvertently played a role in that. Eggman is also lonely, and he wants to be loved. I was honestly surprised by how Eggman's written here. Now let's talk about his most precious creation.
A family born of love and not genetics. Everything I want. I wish I'd never seen this.
Arguably the key character of Frontiers, Sage. Leading up to this game, I assumed that she'd be the main villain. What a moron I am! How many times has a mysterious new character been advertised as the enemy and turns out they aren't? Except for this guy. Unlike Knuckles or Shadow, you don't even fight her. Being a boss battle isn't her purpose. True, she can redirect a Titan towards Sonic, but she isn't a full-blown fighter. Or is she? Throughout the story, Sage is this cynical shoulder angel constantly pestering Sonic to give up. She's an android, so to her there is only logic. And Sonic's love of life and adventure, it's confusing to her. It doesn't make sense to an AI. So the friction between these two is more ideological than physical. In other words, she thinks Sonic's an idiot. That would make her papa proud. Over time, as she watches Sonic helping the Coco and chatting with his friends, she begins to understand and respect him. And it's expected. The robot develops emotions like love and sadness. There's also a visual change to her. Her appearance started out black and red, but thanks to being inspired by Sonic, eventually she becomes white and blue, although both designs switch every now and then. The cutscene where she changes for the first time, it could have been handled better. Sage is tearful about what will befall Sonic, then we cut to a flashback with her and Eggman in cyberspace, and it looks like he's yelling at her, with the sad music playing. This is supposed to be the emotional apex of the story, but it just doesn't work. It got a big laugh out of me the first time I watched it. When you start off that way, it's as gut-wrenching as... This montage is awful. We're only in one area, and Eggman and Sage didn't have that much screen time together to build this up. If it were up to me, cut the montage. It's not necessary, and it ended up killing the mood. Well, less than stellar montage or not, Sage does have her arc, and it corresponds to the melancholy vibe of this game. In the beginning, everything's gloomy. Sonic's friends are trapped. Sage only knows calculations and logic. If the end is here, then it's absolute. But one island at a time, Sonic breaks through that. Sage changes, and the sun is shining.
Message!
So Sage takes part in justifying this atmosphere of sorrow. And speaking of sorrow, what exactly was the civilization that once lived here?
In the blue, twins raked by chaos. Toru sein schweißte. What should you?
After 30 years of Sonic lore, we've come across tragic backstories. Once proud and beautiful civilizations or royal families that were either fractured or wiped out. I'm sorry if this sounds harsh, but looking at most of them, they were brought onto themselves, attempting to steal the Chaos Emeralds for absolute power, messing with time travel to fulfill selfish needs. But introduced in Sonic Frontiers, the Ancients, they did not deserve what happened to them. This is the most tragic, heartbreaking collapse of any ancient civilization in Sonic. The Ancients are an alien race who came from an unidentified world, and they weren't power-hungry or greedy or petty. A malevolent force destroyed their planet, forcing them to exile. They were led to Earth thanks to the Master Emerald drawing them there. How? The Chaos Emeralds, which originated on their planet. And they brought them with them. They landed on Earth tens of thousands of years ago. Just don't think about how Sonic Unleashed established that the Emeralds have been around on Earth during the times of Light and Dark Gaia. They could have changed tens of thousands to millions in easy fix. The Ancients settled on Earth, Starfall Islands to be exact, and started rebuilding their home. They invented cyberspace to store their documented history and their memories. And those Coco we've seen on the island, they were good luck charms that were already inside each body of the Ancients. As the Ancients died out, their spirits were transferred into the Coco. As you clear their missions, the essence within them float up to the sky, and the Coco just become inanimate. You fulfilled the last wishes of those Ancients, and brought them peace. You may have noticed that the Ancients look a lot like Chaos, and it's not a coincidence. The remaining Ancients migrated to Angel Island to the Master Emerald. And in time, the Emerald evolved them into the Chao, and Chaos is a mutated Chao. So his design reverted to the way the Ancients started out. The various robots that Sonic fights on this island, all made by the Ancients. Their most valued robots, the Titans. The Chaos Emeralds were used to power them up in case the worst happens, fighting the monster that destroyed their world. And unfortunately, it found them.
Since time immemorial, I have languished here. The locks are broken. Now I shall tear down the walls between dimensions and consume all.
What is possibly the oldest, most evil, most terrifying villain in Sonic? The End. A planet-sized, cosmic force of pure malice. Destroying world after world, it has the highest body count out of all the villains. And it's the most powerful. It decimated the homeworld of the Ancients like it was nothing. That's basically all it does. Destroy. Character-wise, there isn't that much to discuss, but that's not necessary here. It is mysterious, it is scary, and it is effective. The design of its true form is admittedly a little basic, but the simplicity of it does help convey what it is. Destruction. No time for any gravitas or light shows. Your demise is here. This does beg the question, how the hell did the Ancients stop this thing? After settling in their new home, the End attacked. But this time, the Ancients fought back, using cannons and the Titans. Much to their dismay, the Titans weren't powerful enough. So they decided to bind the End to the Titans and lock it into cyberspace, where it's been residing all this time. When you think about it, the End is responsible for the Chaos Emeralds being on Earth, and all those disasters that happened because of the Emeralds. Yeah, you can thank the End for that. And it's not only a giant ball of death, it's also intelligent and manipulative. That voice that spoke to Sonic when he got out of Green Hill cyberspace, that was the End. It wanted Sonic to destroy the Titans, but Sonic has no idea what'll happen. Even after all the cyber corruption and flashbacks, he still listens to that voice. Now that all the pieces are set, it's time for the endgame. With the final lock disabled, the cyber corruption overwhelms Sonic, keeping him in place. Unable to move, stuck there. Although doing so does release Amy, Tails, and Knuckles from their cyber prison. And Eggman too, who delights in seeing Sonic frozen. Sage warns Eggman to immediately go back into cyberspace. With all the locks removed, the End is free, and the monstrosity vows to continue its rampage throughout the universe. So, we're basically screwed. But when it all seems hopeless, Tails encourages Amy and Knuckles to never give up. So in this moment, our three heroes band together and quickly uncorrupt Sonic, then go back to the sidelines. That was their big moment. So, a couple of things. Sonic being cyber-corrupted has been a plot point throughout the whole story, and when it finally happens, it's undone in a couple of minutes. It undermines the threat of being cyber-corrupted since you can easily fix it. And was this really the most these three could do? For hours, they've been talking about wanting to do more, and it all culminates to them holding hands and bringing Sonic back. I do like that Tails is leading the charge, but this was a lame moment. Well, anyway, Sage advises Eggman to work with Sonic, since that is the only way to defeat the End. So that means the two have to team up, which Eggman really doesn't want to. I do like this bit where Sonic smirks at Eggman. Yeah, we're gonna team up again. Fun, huh? Let's get to work! So Eggman, being the bigger man here, temporarily inducts Sonic into the Eggman Empire. So it's officially not a team-up, but it is. On the final island, Sage accompanies Sonic to get the Chaos Emeralds to defeat the End. And this is where the pacing fumbles a little. The conversations between Sonic and Sage feel like info dumps. Yeah, Sage is an AI and she is expected to explain things, but it shouldn't have to sound so artificial. And I think the situation should have looked more Doomsday-esque. The End is out, so to ramp up the tension, make the sky red and play more sinister music. That's what I would do. With all the emeralds, Sonic goes super and takes on the Supreme, the final Titan, controlled by the End. After defeating the Titan, the End resurges into space. Now it's all up to Super Sonic and Sage, controlling the Supreme. Before flying off into space, Sage talks to Eggman like it may be the last time, telling him she needs to leave him, and she might not come back. You can tell Eggman's fighting off his tears. He didn't expect this to happen. In the beginning, Sage was just an AI. Now he's caring for her like his own daughter. and he might lose her forever. The end is boasting about how insurmountable it is. The all-consuming void who destroyed countless worlds. What can one hedgehog do? During the fight, the end talks to Sonic like it knows him. It saw into his mind in cyberspace. It saw what he fought. It questioned why his courage never wavered. Arrogance, ignorance, stupidity, but no matter how much it sees, it can never understand him. Sonic, Sage, and in a way, the ancients deal the final blow. But the end is ready to unleash a supernova explosion, killing everyone. Sage puts herself inside the explosion to minimize the range. In her last moments, she asks Sonic to
look after Father.
As daybreak hits, Sonic is reunited with Amy, Tails, and Knuckles, finally free from cyberspace. And I'd say these three are changed people, thanks to their experience on the island. The four joyfully leave Starfall Islands, ready to embark on their own individual journeys. Elsewhere, Eggman is working on bringing Sage back, and from the look and sound of it, we'll be seeing her again, ending Sonic Frontiers. Whew. Okay, after all that, does Sonic Frontiers have a good story? I'm proud to say it does. I was really impressed with how it handled its themes, and you bet I love Sonic reconnecting with his friends. Sage has one of the best first impressions out of all the characters. I love her story, her arc, and how she made Eggman soften a little. Looking forward to seeing where she goes from here. And I also appreciate how this story updated the grand lore of Sonic. It's been way too long since we've had any of that. Is this the best story in Sonic? I wouldn't go that far. So overall, this is the best story since Sonic and the Black Knight. And I'm not saying this because the stories in between were stinkers. There was a lot of care and effort put into this. I am so down with Ian Flynn writing another Sonic game. And I'm super curious to see where Sonic is going from here. This game is the first of a brand new era. And out of all the era entry games, this feels like a metamorphosis instead of a tonal whiplash. Yeah, think about it. The previous era entry games, they feel like a 180 compared to what we got right before that. But with Frontiers, it starts off like it is a game of the previous era. I mean, the opening does resemble Lost World's intro a little bit, but at the ending, it feels different. We can't hang in the same place forever. We've got to move on. And this is gonna sound a little bittersweet. I don't see myself going back to talking about the 2010s games. Well, not as much. The writing in those titles weren't hitting, and I am sure as not the only one to bring that up. I think Sonic Team got the message. So, mission accomplished. No need to rip on these anymore. And besides, I really don't want to sound bitter most of the time. Well, let's say our farewells to 2010 Sonic writing, for old time's sake. So, will I play Sonic Frontiers? Well, after all the DLC comes out, I think I will play it. And I'm pumped for the next game. Granted, if this formula will continue and Sonic Team doesn't go in a different route nobody asked for, then I'm excited. I'm excited for this new era of Sonic. Thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to comment what you think about Frontiers' story. And after this video, I think I'm taking a break from Sonic for a while. I am feeling a little burnout, and I've got other things to discuss. Well, till next time.